Hey everybody, we had our session 0 and we're going to talk about what happened, so let's dig in. Welcome back everyone, I'm really excited to get this campaign going. We had our session 0 and we're getting ready to start digging into the actual adventure, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how our session 0 went. In our last video, which I'll have a link for up above, we talked about what the plan was for session 0. So we just followed our notes here in Notion as we were going through our sessions. Before our session, we took care of all of this. We printed off a whole bunch of stuff so that my players had them on hand. There's like the trinkets, custom backgrounds, 10 Towns overview. I also made sure that the map from the book is laminated. I just ran that to a local office store. They do that for me. I think it's like $9 for them to laminate my map. I do that for every adventure that I run, just so that we can actually use it and it's a little bit more durable. We can also draw on it with dry or wet erase markers if we want. And then I also set up the D&D Beyond link. So we got that all taken care of beforehand. And then during our session, we actually started our session finishing a one-shot that another player was running for us in between our Netherdeep campaign and the start of this one. We just did one of the higher level missions from Keys from the Golden Vault, and it was a lot of fun. So we finished that up, and then we started into our session 0, and we just did a little get to know you, which was a lot of fun. Got to know some of the players, their favorite video or board games were, who their favorite characters were that they have played in D&D, and then whether or not they are most excited by combat, exploration, puzzles, or roleplay. And this is all just so that I can get a sense for what my players enjoy, so that we can tailor the game a little bit to each of them. McKenna is really excited about roleplay. Eric is a little bit excited about all of it really, but hoping to lean a little bit more into the exploration this time. Sky I think this is his first full campaign. I think he's played one-shots and other things here and there. He's excited for everything, but is excited at the opportunity at role-playing. Savvy is roleplay for sure as well. She also really likes puzzles and heists. And then Katie is excited mostly by roleplay, and she will do the others as well. And actually, I think she also mentioned some exploration. After we went and talked about that, we did our one-page campaign guide. If you'd like to take a look at that, it's in the last video as well. I may provide a link for it in the description down below as well. Just went over everything. We talked about everything on that, from the background of the adventure to the truths of the adventure, and then our lines and veils. Made sure everyone was good with that, especially since a couple of the players weren't around the first time we did our session 0. For this adventure, I just made sure to highlight a few points on this as well. These are all checked off as I was going, but made sure that they were really aware that it's cold here and that there is darkness. So if you want to create a character that has dark vision, I'm totally okay with that. You've been forewarned. We went over again and made sure everyone was good with the safety tools, and if there was anything else that they need to do, I let them know that they can DM me or whatever else. But I think what we had on our one-pager was good enough. And then some rules we had for our game language, I just let them know everything is okay. Just if you have a problem with it, just let me know. Game rules, I mentioned to them how we're going to do hit die going forward, and everyone seemed to be okay with that. I'll roll a die, they'll roll their hit die, and whichever one's higher they'll take. And then potions, we talked about this before, everyone was good with it. Nothing super exciting there. Flanking, we didn't actually mention. I think I'm going to leave this as is. And then how do we want to do critical hits this campaign? We had a good little discussion about this, and the consensus was we're going to take the max damage from the die and then roll the die and add that on top. So if it's a d8, you're taking 8 plus whatever you roll on the d8 and then your modifier. Another thing that my party mentioned is they want this one to be a little bit more dangerous. So that's good to know for me. I will be making sure that the monsters are a little bit more challenging, and they also mentioned maybe if you go unconscious to have some sort of injury table that they roll on to see what exactly happens when they're unconscious so that they can go get that taken care of. So that's something I'm going to be looking into. I know there are tables already that exist. We'll be looking into that in between sessions. At the beginning, I talked about the inspiration tokens. Everyone seemed good with that, and they liked the idea of that. We touched base on knowing the rules, and we may make a judgment call and then figure it out later, and everyone seemed kosher with that. That's how we've been rolling for the last year plus, so everyone was good with that. I did mention that this time things are going to be a little bit more challenging. I didn't say that it's because I found the monsters know what they're doing, but that's pretty much why. But I did stress that I don't like the feel of the DM versus the players. However, the monsters are going to try and challenge you, and that's where my players are like, yeah, I really like a little bit more of a challenge this time. I felt like we kind of steamrolled through a bunch of encounters. There were a handful that were really challenging last time, but I'd like more that are more challenging. So, duly noted. Then we went over the 10 Towns overview, just handed that out to everybody so they could take a look at all the 10 Towns if they wanted to be from any of them. We had our party choose a group patron, and the patron that they chose is Danica Greysteel, who is over the Nature Spirits initial quest. So that'll be a little bit interesting. I was not expecting that as their group patron, but it should be interesting. I think they liked the fact that she is kind of newer to 10 Towns and is more scholarly than some of the others. I had a couple that were interested in Sheriff Markham Southwell, but overall, Danica was the winner. So we'll start off with that, and she'll just be giving them quests as at the start of this, and then from there they can develop relationships with NPCs. From there, we had our players build their characters, and we've gone over all of this already, so I'm not going to go over it again, but that was the rest of the session, and this took the vast majority of the session is people building their characters and talking with each other about how they know each other and what some of their backgrounds are, what their secrets are, why they are out adventuring. Let's talk about our characters for a second. Since that's the end of it, we have, let's go to our, so characters you can find here in database. I've got characters, and then we can open up Jack here. Oh, I guess it's probably worth mentioning my little table. I've got passive perception, hit points, AC, and then links, as well as some of their trained skills and languages. This is just useful information for me. Jack is a Herringon bard, and this is the artwork that my character provided me. I think they used Midjourney, so whether you appreciate that or not, that's where this comes from. So Jack was arrested for disrupting the peace. He was throwing a concert that devolved into madness and was protesting the authority, though I was not actually sure why. Perhaps he's a rebel without a cause. The secret that my player ended up with was a secret base of operations somewhere below one of the 10 towns, and we'll have that come into play a little bit later. And then I'm thinking of having the Order of Oral be the ones responsible for the destruction and madness that was his concert. And magic items they're looking for is just some sort of musical instrument, ideally a lute. So I told my players I'm not going to guarantee that they get this, but just as an idea. So here is Jack, our bard. Next, we have Kaima. I think it's Kaima. Kaima with Winter's Bane, who is a human sorcerer. And here's Kaima out of Hero Forge. So Kaima comes from a group of reindeer herders from the Ragged tribes, and she has wild magic. She's a wild magic sorcerer. So one day her wild magic went off and hurt someone. She ran away as part of that. The other thing is her parents had a deal with a night hag. They couldn't have a child, so they made a deal with a hag wherein they were able to have Kaima, and she is out adventuring trying to see if she can get them out of the deal, whatever deal it is they made with the hag, which could play into this really well. I know there's a hag later on in the book. We'll probably run into more of her backstory more in the later chapters, chapter 2, 3, and 4. Next, we have Quark is a dwarf cleric, and this one's kind of fun, I think. He's really here to prove that he is better than the guy who became a paladin. So they worship Abathor, this Quark does, who is kind of a mischievous god of trickery and greed, a dwarven god. And Quark wanted to be a paladin and has taken some stats that would make him more effective as a paladin, but his god chose another person instead. So he's pretty jealous of this other person and is out to prove himself to his god, and he's really willing to do whatever it takes to become paladin, even if that involves killing this other person. But he doesn't want to make his god upset or angry, which I think is great, and we'll probably pull into this. I've got some thoughts about where I want this to go, and we'll see where that goes in the future. Next is Rory, who is a Leonin barbarian. We don't have a ton about her other than her secret is the littlest yeti, so was raised by yetis and also has a yeti tattoo. Not quite sure what that leads into, but she knows Kaima. They ran into each other in the wilderness. Rory was trying to eat one of the reindeer from Kaima's herd, and they have since been friends after that whole thing played out. Tavar is a bugbear ranger, and I actually don't have a ton of information yet from my player. They've been busy in real life, so they'll get this to me hopefully pretty soon. But bugbear ranger, and they're going to go gloomstalker, I think. So we'll get more information on them as my player has time. But that is pretty much it for our session 0. I'm really happy with how that turned out. Excited to see where we go from here, and excited to dive into our first session. Thank you guys a ton for watching. I do appreciate it. Huge shout out to my patrons. We got a couple of new ones. You guys are the best. We'll catch you in the next video.